Cyborg versus Geoff Johns. Cyborg actor Ray Fisher claims Geoff Johns threatened his career while filming Justice League. So, in a tweet, which of course Twitter apparently is a courtroom now, during the LA reshoots for Justice League, Geoff Johns summoned me to his office to belittle and admonish my and my agent's attempts to take grievances up the proper chain of command. He then made a thinly veiled threat to my career. This behavior cannot continue. A is greater than E. Oh, that's accountability is greater than entertainment. So, all right. So, boy, there's a lot of angry people in the background of what happened to the DCEU as a result of Justice League's very, very poor performance. And this had to do with Zack Snyder being shown the door, basically, and apparently Warner taking advantage of the terrible tragedy of Zack's daughter. And then they brought in Joss Whedon to apparently fix his Justice League. At the 11th hour, they did this, spending enough money to make an entirely different movie. Instead, they cut and paste stuff out of Zack Snyder's footage and did this other movie on it, which apparently had more or less the same plot if you just shave off a lot of it. We now know that what Zack Snyder will be bringing to HBO Max is 4 hours, so, and that's why there's talk of it being split up as a miniseries or something along those lines, and all that. So there's a lot more material, and probably in his thinking is that, yeah, there would be a theatrical cut that would be much shorter. Apparently the one he was working on at the time, right up before he left, was the running time was 2:14. So they wanted it even lesser than that. They wanted it at, no more than 2 hours. And all that, but the 2:14 version probably plot-wise lines up more or less with what you got in the theatrical version, but that's not the one. That's not the cut. Yes, there's more than one cut of Zack Snyder's cut, and the much longer one. Now, had it gone through with that, had the 2:14 been the one that's released in theaters, the Blu-ray probably would have been this ultimate cut, which they've done with several of Snyder's films, most notably Watchmen, and then Batman vs. Superman, which the ultimate cut is much better than the theatrical version. And so, he's probably thinking of that, but it didn't happen that way. And instead, they brought Joss Whedon in. It was supposed to just bring Marvel magic to Justice League, and everybody would think it's another Avengers movie or something. I don't know. But people like Geoff Johns came into this probably thinking this is their chance to take charge of this, and he's the comic book guy, and he revitalized Green Lantern and all that stuff, although the movie that they pushed didn't do so well. It bombed, and there was all kind of plans for that, and it all went south. And now this was kind of his second chance to come in and take over and rearrange things. And probably the look of Steppenwolf in the movie was more him than anything else, as it kind of matched up with the current vision of him in the New 52 that was going on at the time with the comics and all of that. But the problem is it was just a disaster. This 11th hour changes of a movie that's pretty much already going in a certain direction, plus it's a follow-up to previous films, and that tone and whatnot, it was too late to change it. The only option would have been to scrap the entire thing and start over from scratch, and there was a rumor that Joss Whedon himself suggested that they canceled the release date and then they shoot another movie for the following year. So I guess that would have been like 2018 at some point. And, well, no, they weren't going to do that. And this had to do with getting movies out on time, on schedule, so they could collect their bonuses. So, it flopped. And that was the end of that. And whatever power that Geoff Johns had was gone. He's still involved a lot in shows. He did his Stargirl show, which I gotta say is probably his best project. It's a silly show, but it's, as it stands now, it's probably one of the best of the CW style of shows. As for his Green Lantern project, we'll see. He's apparently heavily involved in that. I don't know if they're still doing a movie or if it's just going to be all consolidated into the HBO Max series, but he's involved in that. And apparently is not just receiving the executive producer paycheck, because this involves his stories, his characters that he introduced in all these versions of these characters. Stargirl is completely his, and that sort of thing. But no, apparently he's more involved in that, so he still has a seat at the table somewhere around, but not nearly what he could have been or was at the time of the Justice League business. So, what was said here? Did he really threaten Ray Fisher's career? Was he upset with Ray Fisher and all of this stuff? Apparently there was, Ray Fisher didn't get along with Joss Whedon. Well, who does? His comments about Joss Whedon, I think, are probably pretty spot on. There's so much smoke around Joss Whedon's attitude and his, behavior and whatnot, that there's got to be some fire to it. And it's just so obvious the man's an a-hole and a hypocrite. And so that stands to reason. So there was a tweet earlier that Ray Fisher put out saying, Joss Whedon's on-set treatment of the cast and crew of Justice League was gross. I don't think he means large. I mean, he means nasty, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable. He was enabled in many ways by Geoff Johns and John Berg. Accountability is greater than entertainment. So maybe that's what he's alluding to, that Geoff Johns took him to the woodshed over not wanting to work well with Joss Whedon. This came out of that he complained about, he didn't want to say the Cyborg catchphrase, booyah. I don't know. Now, his version of Cyborg is a darker, more somber version of Cyborg. And the recent iterations of Cyborg, even in the comics, is not what he used to be. He was kind of he was a funny guy, stuff like that. That's all been toned down. Now, granted, the seriousness of the problem here, he's lost most of his body. His mother has died. He's not in a great place. His relationship with his father was always strained, and all that stuff. It all feeds into that. But his initial personality is somewhat compromised by the computer that's in his brain and all that sort of stuff. So you can understand that to some extent, but that was also there, as I recall, from Teen Titans and whatnot in the 80s and stuff. But his core personality was this guy who had quite the sense of humor and whatnot, but that seems to be pretty much stripped away. There is the other Cyborg in Doom Patrol, who in some ways is a little closer to the original Cyborg, but not by much. So it's, and with the darker tones of the Zack Snyder version, Ray Fisher actually, even in the Justice League film as it is, we'll get a lot more in the Snyder cut. I thought his performance was good. Is that the Cyborg I knew? No. But same thing with the Flash. That's not Barry Allen by any stretch of the imagination, but it kind of worked for the context of how that film was. But Ezra Miller's a whole other story. So Ray Fisher, it's not very specific here. Hey, it's specific. He gives the time and place and stuff. No, look, he says a thinly veiled threat to his career. Some were even suggesting that this could be considered a crime. No, there's no case here. This is kind of much ado about nothing, it appears, in that he just doesn't like Geoff Johns. And it's kind of the sort of thing, it's not really all that great to even give it air. As for Geoff Johns himself, there's a lot of people who don't like him. This goes back to Diane Nelson. Someone said, your buddy, Geoff Johns derailed Zack Snyder's cut, and she said he's no buddy of mine or something like that. She used to be the president or co-president of DC, and she had to share that with Geoff Johns, and I guess they did not get along. So there's some amount of smoke to this. Is there a fire with Geoff Johns? Is he just a bad attitude and a bit of an a-hole, behind the scenes, and perhaps other people said they didn't like him and his ideas and directions he wanted. But with Joss Whedon, since he was backing Joss Whedon, that he gets some of that, I guess. But there was the scene where the Flash was to fall on top of Wonder Woman, and Gal Gadot said she didn't want to do it. And then apparently even the stunt double didn't want to do it, and Joss Whedon was just, a bit of a tyrant about it, and you will do it, and all this sort of thing. So it was nasty. They didn't get along, and they didn't like what happened with Zack Snyder, so it was just bad all around, and that sort of thing. But is it worth the trouble to bring this up now after you've won? I mean, Snyder Cut is a big deal, and it's AT&T is behind you. There was even some rumblings that Geoff Johns is still causing trouble, and he might try to sabotage. Now he can't. AT&T is the power, and they want this Snyder Cut, and they want it on there, and it's the biggest excitement about HBO Max as of now. Hopefully, it pays off big, but that's you've won, and Geoff Johns lost. As far no, I want him completely destroyed and ruined. I mean, what did he do that's that terrible? Because you're not really detailing. Just say it. What did he say? Was he upset with you that you need to, do what you're told? You signed a contract. You have to perform the character or whatever. And to some extent, if you're going to be like this about every film you get, that's not a good idea. So, yeah, maybe Geoff Johns was an asshole to Ray Fisher, but it's one of those things. But listen, buddy, that's kind of life, You move on because you won this one, and you're just kind of starting out here. Now, Geoff Johns with Joss Whedon, it's easier to believe the accusations against him, which I think are probably spot on. But with Geoff Johns, he's just not as big a name as Joss Whedon is, and so there's not a whole lot there, but there's something there with other people who just, didn't like the guy. So, I don't know. Geoff Johns is a very good comic book writer. He's done a lot of good work there. He certainly did revitalize Green Lantern back in the era we now refer to as the day, and all of that. But so far, it's a lot of misses than hits with his television and movie work. Stargirl seems to be the best he's done, and even that's a bit shaky. It started off pretty bad. I've done my reviews. You can check those out. But so I think it's a successful show. I think it's narratively. I don't know what its ratings are or whatnot, but yeah, it's pretty good. So that's about it, though. Green Lantern bomb, Justice League bomb. Now he had a hand in Aquaman, but by the time that happened, he was already gone. It was too late because Justice League, he probably blew a lot of smoke up the butts of Warner's, and that somehow he could magically fix that. No, you couldn't, and you didn't. So yeah, it's all a mess, and everybody's blaming everybody else, and that sort of thing. But yeah, Twitter's not the place to address this, and there's just a lot of grumbling and anger between these camps, and I don't know, after you've won, it's time to move on. As far as the Green Lantern project goes, that's a go. So you're not gonna, if you're gonna be causing trouble for some other project you're not even involved with, that's not gonna look good on you. You got to be smart about your battles and learn how to choose them, I think. So I don't know if it's a good idea. By this, I still don't really know what it was that Geoff Johns did that's so god awful that he should be exiled to an island somewhere. I don't know. So there we go. Ray Fisher, you might have a big career coming ahead of you with Cyborg. You might. I don't know. But this just isn't worth it.
All right. Thank you for watching and listening. Why not like and subscribe and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores and have plenty of goodies for you. Hats, mugs, stickers, posters, all that goody stuff. Plus, you can head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book Night Night. Oh, yeah. Plus, you can also catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, over at RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on my channel at BitChute. That's the Mr Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.